Glen Oaks Club was first established all the way back in 1924, and for the first time, this course will play host to the Northern Trust. The layout, originally designed in 1971, it underwent a major renovation that was completed just 3 years ago. Let's visit once again with Todd Lewis. Todd, everyone's wondering what shape Rory McIlroy is in. I feel like Commodus from Gladiator, thumbs up, thumbs down. What's the verdict for Rory this week?
George, we're going thumbs up. However, he is a bit cautious, concerned that the nagging pain from a stress fracture in his left rib that not only affected his ribs but his back as well from earlier in the year will flare up once again. He did tell us this week that he will play the remainder of the FedEx Cup playoffs, then play the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship on the European Tour, and after that, he's shutting it down for the remainder of 2017. He will rest, get rehab on that injury. He also will go through a lot of analytics in regards to his body, all the way down to determining what is the best food for him to acquire top performance. Now, he's looking forward to the time off, and he's also looking forward to getting healthy. And today he talked about how frustrating it has been with that rib/back injury compared to when he injured his left ankle 2 years ago.
You look at the two different injuries and you'd think the ankle injury was way worse, but it only put me out for 5 weeks, and it didn't really hamper how I played or how I practiced from then on, where this thing has just been so niggly, and it's flared up and then it's calmed down and then it's flared up again, and I just haven't had the time to really let it settle down and do. I did at the start of the year, but as I said, I started to practice a little bit too hard, too early when I came back from getting married and going on honeymoon, and then it flared up again. So to have this time to fully, put the clubs away for 5 or 6 weeks, have 2 weeks where I shut it down and do nothing after the Dunhill Links, and then start to rehab, start to get my body in better shape, get everything healthy, and then start to hit balls maybe end of November, and then work on some technical stuff November, December, and when we get to January, hit the ground running and hopefully have a injury-free, stress-free, very successful year.
Now, Roy did say he has plans for Saturday night. You see, he'll be watching the fight between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Roy is a big boxing fan and a big fan of Conor McGregor, who is from Ireland. Roy said that he has spent time with McGregor, and although he is a showman, McIlroy said that McGregor is quite humble and a role model to those in his home country. The question is, where will Roy watch the fight? Well, if he makes the cut, which he's hoping to do, he'll watch it here in New York. However, if he misses the cut, he'll be back in South Florida. Or he might go to Las Vegas, who knows, and watch it live in person. George?
Todd, don't threaten Rory McIlroy with a good time if he happens to have the weekend off. The FedEx Cup standings entering the Northern Trust. Hideki Matsuyama is in that top spot, 2,869 points. Seems like a lot, but folks, remember, 2,000 points awarded to the winner of this week's event. Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth are 2-3. Brian Harmon currently rounding out the top 10.
It's been a bit of an inconsistent year, I guess you could say. I mean, as a whole, I obviously am very pleased with where I'm at. I'm in a good position going into the playoffs in terms of the FedEx Cup. But yeah, I just kind of obviously got off to a great start and then kind of lulled down a little bit. But I felt like I was playing better than the results showed, and just kind of tried to stay patient and just continue to work and grind with my dad. And yeah, it was just nice to see all the hard work pay off at the PGA. So hopefully we can keep it going a little bit. It never set in. It really never did, and I was shocked by that. I don't know if it was because I kind of had so many obligations or just things to kind of do. I never really wanted to celebrate or enjoy it. I just was so tired, and I wasn't in a mood to really do anything. But also, it was like, look, I needed to try to get rested and ready for this week.
I think I needed a week off, to kind of recharge, and but yeah, I mean, it was a great week off. It was one that was needed. So, I feel really good coming into this week. I'm, recharged. I'm, ready to go. And, I mean, the golf swing feels good. I feel comfortable out there. So I'm looking forward to this week. Obviously, the playoffs they're big events, and this is the first one. So, if I could obviously winning here would probably move me to number one, and you know, it would keep me in that top 5 going into Atlanta.
These next 3 events are essentially 4 PGA Tour events as far as getting yourself in position in that last one. So the idea for the next 3 tour events is, first 3 playoff events, is to get yourself into the top 5 in Atlanta so you can control your own destiny. And fortunately, have been able to be in that position, you know, a couple times now, and in position to do so as long as I can get off to a good start this week.
Speaking of getting off to that start this week, Jordan, Justin, Hideki, 8:26 a.m. Eastern. They get it going off the 10th tee at Glen Oaks. Time now for the Comcast Business Edge. Well, folks, the playoff party kicks off this weekend just outside the Big Apple. So, Brian, who has the edge to jump up the FedEx Cup standings and win the first leg of the playoffs? The Northern Trust.
Well, with 120 players in the field this week, George, at the Northern Trust, there hasn't been a lot of player experience on this golf course. But one player who is very familiar with playing a course and not having much knowledge is world number 8, Jon Rahm. And he's had an unbelievable season. Matter of fact, 17 of his 19 starts this year have been at golf courses and tournaments he has not played before, which is an unbelievable stat. But the reason I think he has the edge this week at the golf course is because of his driving distance, averaging 306 yards off the tee, which is 16th on the PGA Tour. It's a long golf course, but length never hurts. Now, the fairways are generous, but the rough is cut at 3.5 inches. And because of his strength with his lower body, hitting out of the rough should not be a problem for Jon Rahm. He's 9th on tour in proximity out of the rough. And you can see here a beautiful shot from the rough, controlling the distance. But there's one thing about Jon Rahm that I really love. He is not afraid of the big stage. He has a flair for the dramatic. This is back in January at the Farmers on the 72nd hole. This is for Eagle, trying to win his very first tournament on the PGA Tour. And what does he do? With the crowd going crazy, makes this long putt for Eagle, picking up his very first win. He's a fiery player that loves attention. So here's what I think about Jon Rahm moving forward. You know, back in May, the Wells Fargo was played over at Eagle Point, and the players faced a very similar dilemma that week. Seeing a golf course for the first time, Jon Rahm finished 4th. So when you combine his familiarity with playing a tournament on a course he doesn't know much about and his ultra talent and confidence, I give him the edge this week at the Northern Trust.
We'll see if he can win at Glen Oaks. That's the Comcast Business Edge. FedEx Cup playoffs are here, and it all begins live on Golf Channel. First round coverage of the Northern Trust starting at 1:30 Eastern Time. Well, he's done something only Tiger Woods and Patrick Rogers have accomplished before, and soon Maverick McNeely will join them on the pro circuit. Stanford grad announced on Twitter today he will turn pro after next month's Walker Cup. McNeely won 11 tournaments at Stanford, which ties his school record held by Woods and Rogers. He's scheduled to make his pro debut in the Safeway Open in October. As Golf Central continues this evening, we're looking at the lasting legacy of Augusta National Chairman Billy Payne. You're going to hear from 3 past Masters champions, including the Golden Bear. And it's the regular season finale on the Web.com Tour. 25 PGA Tour cards on the line this week. A preview from Portland with a focus on the Bubble Guys. That's ahead.